In March 1945, two villas in northern Italy were approached by a group of heavily armed men who were on a top-secret mission in a remote corner of Europe. Just behind the front lines, their target is home to a significant German headquarters. Michael Lee, a spy dispatched by Winston Churchill's special operations executive, is one of the two men leading the attack. Roy Farron, an SAS member who wasn't even supposed to be there, was confined to a desk but yearned for the rush of combat. Furthermore, the Allied High Command had canceled their assignment, which meant that both men were defying orders and running the possibility of being caught by a court-martial in order to carry out the attack. In the final year of World War II, the only question was whether they could pull it off or if they would die or go to prison. Italy has been a divided nation since Mussolini was toppled 15 months ago. The Italians had previously switched sides and were now fighting in the north and south of the nation with the Allies. With the assistance of Italian fascists, the Germans captured the remaining portion of the nation. The Allies sought to continue their progress after their northward advance had stalled due to the harsh winter conditions. The advance had stopped between the river valley and the Apennine Mountains. Before the big offensive that everyone knew was coming in the spring, they needed someone to really put a stop to it. Michael had always been an adventurer, having grown up in the great outdoors, and he enlisted at the start of the war. That man was a secret agent. After serving in a parachute battalion in both India and the desert, he joined a special operations executive because as a thrill seeker, he couldn't wait to get his hands on some genuine action. Lee told me the story of how he persuaded himself into it, so he just showed it there. The first mission assigned to Soe was to thwart the enemy occupation of Western Europe. After that, he gained experience fighting alongside the partisans in Yugoslavia, and he eventually developed a taste for living at risk. He was now bringing this insightful experience to his new mission envelope. This was not his first SE activity. Instead, he was to collaborate with Italian partisan organizations. On January 3, 1945, Michael Lee's Dakota was flying toward the German-occupied northern Apennines in broad daylight when the Duda lined up on the drop. Zonla then sprang from the plane and parachuted into the area. In the Apennine foothills, he landed close to the settlement of Febio. Deep in the highlands around the landing zone, Lee quickly went about tracking down the local partisans. The organization, known as the Reggiani Division, consisted of a collection of combative men with varying political affiliations who were desperate. The bulk belonged to the communist faction, which saw an increase in size from an odd group of German army deserters. One reason for this strange combination of maybe a German weapon, a big red neckerchief in particular, is that many of these deserters were Russian prisoners of war who had been enlisted in German regiments and then fled. Though the guerrillas gave off an intimidating image, they weren't always a formidable combat force. Leah's job was to make all the partisans' actions different. Had one benefit, though, and that was the terrain they worked in. The guerrillas controlled all of the important mountain passes, and the valleys were steep and well protected. Access by road was also challenging. Partisans in the valley below could easily retreat and hide in the woods, while the Germans only very rarely attempted to breach this mountain retreat. Michael Liu, an SOE agent, gained some security as a result. Lee first made haste to establish his stronghold in the isolated SEO hillside village. It was dubbed the British Mission. However, Liu didn't speak much Italian, so he started looking for anyone in the neighborhood who could help, especially English speakers. One such person was Bruno Gimpel, a 17-year-old who was born in England but had lived in a small village in northern Italy since the start of World War I. Living with La at this property in SEO, Bruno Gimpel soon realized what kind of man La was. To put it another way, Michael La was a man with a mission, a fixed concept searching for action because he felt that the world was about to end and he wanted a scrap. La started to gather his soldiers, but he was still short on firepower. A designated drop zone was established at Kaspaloki, and Dakotas began to fly in a growing number of supplies, including anti-tank rifles and Sten guns, as well as other old favorites. It's a recognizable weapon of mass resistance. The 9mm caliber Algier pistol and submachine gun ammo are spot-welded, screwed, and welded so you can take the enemy's new weapons in hand. The men were now prepared for battle. Lee gave the partisans the order to intensify their attacks on the Germans. They increased. They were occasionally kept busy by the temper, who were hitting more columns and intensifying their ambushes on patrols and roadways. A few phone lines were severed, destroyed a train, destroyed some railroads, and ambushed a convoy. What partisanship is all about is always being on the move and trying to incite fresh attacks, so it is always touch and run. Sometimes we were running with the crutches on our tail, and other times we were visiting partisan units. Life was perilous, nasty, and busy. At times we had plans, so we would travel on different missions. Keep in mind that there was always a mission in the province next door. Then on February 19th, 1945, Michael Lew became aware of a fascinating piece of intelligence. It originated from an uncommon source, an Austrian deserter by the name of Hans. He had fled to the partisans while serving in a German parachute company. He had even brought his German truck with him. The partisans enlisted young Italian girls to provide information on the Germans. In partisan warfare, spage was crucial. If you know everything there is to know about your opponent, Jerry will never be able to catch you. They made friends with the Germans and used their charm to eavesdrop. After striking up a conversation, one of the females went down to POI to learn more. She provided comprehensive details on the objective and verified the existence of the headquarters in the German sentries. The road that led to Peggy was shared by two villas, Villa Rosa and Villa Calvi, which were 150 meters apart. They commanded most of the front line and housed the advance headquarters of the German 51st Corps and the 14th Army Group. The actual headquarters and communications center were located at VVI, along with staff quarters and other areas. Furthermore, the commander in charge of this significant portion of the front frequently resided there, making it an ideal target for Lee to demolish the structures and apprehend or eliminate a significant general. Along much of the front, it would decapitate the German command system. Naturally, Lew's opportunity to directly contribute significantly to the effort to end the conflict was enormous. Lee was all in favor of it because it was just what he was looking for, and the timing was ideal. Now, the Allies were preparing for the much-anticipated spring onslaught. Lew had 2 months to plan his attack since the date was chosen as April 6, 1945. Making sure there was as much disruption as possible as the offensive broke out over the German alliance was one of the objectives of the Allied leaders. Lew knew this and sent his radio operator instructions to get permission to attack. The response from head office was to move forward. Operation Toma was the name given to the assault, but Lee had a problem. While the partisans were good fighters for sabotage and skirmishes, he required a more experienced military squad with hardened combat men to stiffen up the motley partisans and push home the offensive. He asked for the Special Air Service, or SAS, as a specific type of reinforcement. Colonel David Sterling founded the SAS, formerly known as the Elite Fighters, in 1941. The unit gained notoriety as Desert Raiders, hitting targets far beyond enemy lines and supply dumps. The SAS customized this all-terrain vehicle, which was their favorite ride. After dismantling them, they gave them firearms and supplies. Because the Jeep made it possible for the SAS to travel great distances, these fighters have earned an incredible reputation. The females who jump would use parachutes and a knife between their teeth to leap from aircraft. Upon joining the Special Air Service, he became one of the most decorated men in history. Although Roy Farron was a hardened combat veteran who had served in the Western Desert, he was a soldier at heart and did not appear to match the stereotype of a merciless war hero. In 1942, this well-respected fighter came dangerously close to death, but instead of reacting as one might expect, he gave him back his life, allowing him to run away as much as he pleased. From that point on, he set his sights on a life of pure action. That's all for today. If you liked this video, please give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to receive notifications. Also, express your valuable thoughts in the comment section below. Until then, bye. Also, spend some time watching other videos on the channel.